The notion of a Satanic New World Order (NWO) using climate change propaganda to oppress individuals has been a topic of discussion among conspiracy theorists. This idea posits that a shadowy group of powerful individuals is manipulating the narrative surrounding climate change to impose their will on the global population. While the concept of climate change is rooted in scientific fact, the argument that it is being exploited to further the interests of a new world order is a matter of debate. On one hand, it is undeniable that climate change has become a dominant topic in modern discourse, with many governments, corporations, and international organizations emphasizing its importance. The scientific consensus on climate change is clear. Human activities, particularly the emission of greenhouse gases, are significantly contributing to the warming of the planet. This has led to a growing concern about the potential consequences of climate change, including rising sea levels, more frequent natural disasters, and disruptions to global food systems. However, some argue that the climate change narrative is being manipulated to serve the interests of a new world order. According to this perspective, the emphasis on climate change is being used to justify the implementation of policies that erode individual freedoms and consolidate power in the hands of a few. For instance, the push for a global carbon tax or a cap-and-trade system could be seen as a means of exerting control over the global economy. Similarly, the promotion of sustainable development and green technologies might be viewed as a way to justify the imposition of draconian regulations on industries and individuals. Moreover, the language and tactics used by some climate change advocates have been criticized for being overly alarmist and divisive. The use of terms like climate denial to describe those who question the severity of climate change or the efficacy of proposed solutions can be seen as a means of silencing dissent and stifling debate. This has led some to argue that the climate change movement has been co-opted by authoritarian interests seeking to exploit the issue for their own purposes. Furthermore, the role of international organizations like the United Nations in promoting the climate change agenda has raised suspicions among some. The UN Agenda 21, which outlines a framework for sustainable development, has been interpreted by some as a blueprint for a new world order. The document's emphasis on global cooperation and the need for governments to work together to address climate change has been seen as a threat to national sovereignty and individual freedom. Despite these concerns, it is essential to recognize that the vast majority of climate change researchers and advocates are motivated by a genuine desire to address a pressing global issue. The scientific consensus on climate change is clear, and the need for collective action to mitigate its effects is undeniable. However, it is also important to acknowledge that the climate change narrative can be exploited by those seeking to advance their own interests. In conclusion, while the idea of a Satanic New World Order using climate change propaganda to oppress individuals is a topic of debate, it is crucial to approach this issue with a nuanced perspective. Climate change is a real and pressing concern that requires a concerted global response. However, it is also important to be aware of the potential for the climate change narrative to be manipulated and exploited by those seeking to advance their own interests. By promoting critical thinking, open debate, and transparency, we can work towards addressing the challenges posed by climate change while also safeguarding individual freedoms and promoting a more equitable and just society. Ultimately, it is up to each individual to critically evaluate the information presented to them and to engage in informed discussions about the complex issues surrounding climate change and the New World Order.